The Pro Football Hall of Fame is home to nearly 400 legends of the game, the ultimate symbol of legacy on the gridiron, but we are focused on the best who haven't made it to Canton.
You have got to be kidding me!
We're excluding these recent Hall of Fame finalists, as history has shown they'll be voted in eventually. All-time greats like Torrey Holt, Reggie Wayne, and Terrell Suggs are sure to get in. It may just take some time. We acknowledge their current snubbery and instead are profiling the legends lost in the shuffle. Here's every team's best player still waiting for the knock on the door.
Roger Craig still on his feet, still running. What a run by Roger Craig. You'll never see a better one than that. From 46 yards.
Watch the way he gets that high knee action, keeps those feet going like two pistons.
Get those high knees moving. Roger Craig was a huge piece to the 49ers dynasty of the 1980s, serving as the team's top rusher in its back-to-back Super Bowl wins in 1988 and 1989. Of course, his largest claim to fame is becoming the first player to have 1,000 rushing and receiving yards in the same season, epitomizing the versatility required in the Bill Walsh West Coast offense.
Going back to pass on 3rd and 10 Montana. Looks over the left side, caught by Craig on the way to the end zone, and Craig goes in for the score.
Craig's 364 catches from 1985 to 1989 is more than any player in football, yes, including wide receivers. His continued omission from the Hall may be due to being outshined by the likes of Dickerson and Payton out of the backfield, while also being on a 49er team littered with all-time talent. Since 1957, nearly 70% of Hall of Fame eligible players who have won NFL MVP got their bust enshrined in Canton. Among the few that haven't, Roman Gabriel is perhaps the most notable. Winning the award in 1969 after leading the Rams to an 11-3 record, Gabriel is best known for his rocket arm decades ahead of its time and being the offensive leader on an LA team that featured the vaunted fearsome foursome defensively.
Seattle takes over at its own 11. Alexander, nice cut. Alexander to the middle of the field, and he's gone. Troy James trying to catch it. Touchdown.
More career touchdowns than Barry Sanders and more rushing yards than Earl Campbell. What Shaun Alexander was able to accomplish was nothing short of incredible. From 2001 to 2005, the star running back produced 5 straight seasons of at least 1,600 yards from scrimmage and 16 touchdowns. It is impossible to discuss his dominance without mentioning 2005, a year where Alexander won league MVP and broke the single-season touchdown record.
Everybody in tight. Here's Anderson trying to give ground. LeMaster's over there, and what an effort. He's going to break it. Anderson's going to take it for the touchdown.
Otis Anderson stands among the most productive backs of the 1980s, all while delivering unprecedented longevity and signature playoff moments. From 1979 to 1984, Anderson trailed only the great Walter Payton in rushing yards. He tallied 5 separate 1,000-yard seasons as a Cardinal, totaling over 10,000 for his career once he retired.
And look at Otis Anderson throw the uppercut. Mark Kelso comes in to make the hit. Look at him wind up.
As a member of the Giants, Anderson proved to be a valuable asset well into his 30s. He was named Super Bowl 25 MVP for his 102-yard effort against the heavily favored Buffalo Bills. Regarded by many as the best player left out of the Hall of Fame, Jim Marshall was one of the league's ultimate Ironmen, and his 282 consecutive starts is the record among defensive players. However, it seems fans everywhere only remember him for one play.
Now for the most unusual play of the day, in fact, the most unusual play of the year. Myra finally completes a pass, only to have his receiver, Billy Kilmer, fumble the ball. Jim Marshall recovers and sets sail for the goal line. Marshall is making NFL history as he sprints 66 yards in the wrong direction to score a safety for San Francisco.
Marshall recorded an unofficial 130.5 sacks, primarily as a member of Minnesota's Purple People Eaters. The Vikings led up the fewest amount of points in the NFL from 1968 to 1976, a stretch where the team reached the Super Bowl 4 times.
Good protection.
Wide open is Donald Driver. And he pitches it off, gets away, and is into the end zone. A touchdown for Driver.
For a franchise that has featured the likes of James Lofton, Don Hudson, and Sterling Sharp, ageless wonder Donald Driver stands alone as the all-time leading receiver. The four-time Pro Bowler recorded 6 consecutive 1,000-yard campaigns for the Pack from 2004 to 2009, a top receiving option for both Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. Offensive linemen will be getting their due praise, starting with Chicago center Jay Hilgenberg, a standout on the team's legendary 1985 roster. Hilgenberg was named to 7 straight Pro Bowls between 1985 and 1991. No team had more rushing yards than Chicago during that span, with Hilge paving lanes for both Walter Payton and Neil Anderson.
Play action pass, freezes everybody, going for Herman Moore, downfield, and Moore has a touchdown! Great catch!
Before Calvin Johnson was making spectacular catches in the Motor City, Herman Moore was Detroit's top receiver in the 1990s. He had more catches and yards than any wideout from 1995 to 1997, including a then record-breaking 123 receptions in his signature 95 campaign.
Moore makes the catch, but can't make an ankle tackle, and that costs him a lot of yardage, and Herman has stayed inbounds and goes all the way in for the touchdown.
Moore's 3 All-Pro seasons matches Megatron, and he ranks second in every major franchise receiving category. Shout out to the Dome Patrol. The Saints linebackers of the late 80s and early 90s led the team to its first ever playoff trip, Pat Swilling wreaking havoc off the edge. He was a 5-time Pro Bowler and won 1991 Defensive Player of the Year with a league-best 17 sacks.
Play action and penalty throws, loose football. And it was Pat Swilling on the speed rush.
He's a member of the 100-sack club, but perhaps overshadowed by teammates Sam Mills and Ricky Jackson, who are both in Canton. But let's not forget what type of player Swilling was. Before you run to the comments section, yes, we know Luke Kuechly and Steve Smith are eligible for the Hall, but not yet in. They've been recent finalists and are likely to be included soon. So instead, we focus on Muhsin Muhammad, who tallied over 11,000 receiving yards over a 14-year career. 2004 marked his best year as a pro, leading the league in both receiving yards and touchdowns. His 85-yard receiving touchdown in Super Bowl 38 still stands as the longest in history.
Gonna go deep, has his man wide open, it's Muhammad! Muhammad to the 15, 10, 5, touchdown!
No player in Falcons history has suited up for more games than Mike Ken. The offensive tackle had a career that spanned 3 separate decades for the Dirty Birds, playing 251 in total. The 6'7" tackle was technically sound and a brick wall defenders couldn't get around. Shout out to center Jeff Van Note, another guy who should be considered.
For Tampa Bay, that was Copeland in motion, Allstott. Hit, pulls his way, across the 40, still going, down the sideline, inside the 20, to the 10, and down at the 2. He's in, touchdown! Oh, man.
All aboard the A-Train. One of the last great fullbacks to step foot on the gridiron, Mike Allstott possessed a bruising rushing style and the aura to match. Fans today are still salivating over his highlight reel.
And the handoff is to Allstott, and he's got another Tampa Bay first down. He's got a touchdown.
Allstott was named to 3 All-Pro teams and 6 consecutive Pro Bowls from 1997 to 2002, where he helped Tampa secure its first Lombardi Trophy. Over the span of his career, no fullback had more rushing yards than this bowling ball of a player. The Cowboys' doomsday defense of the 60s and 70s featured plenty of standouts that have a case for this list, but we're going with the man in the middle, Super Bowl champion Leroy Jordan, who led Tom Landry's revolutionary 4-3 defense, suiting up for 14 seasons with Dallas. He was named to the Pro Bowl 5 times, and his 32 career interceptions is tied for the 3rd most ever by a linebacker.
Pete Retzloff, a lean, gaunt perfectionist, in his 10th year recorded his finest statistics.
We're staying in the 60s for our next player, and one of the most underrated tight ends to ever do it. At the time of Pete Retzlaff's retirement in 1966, only Mike Ditka had more yards or touchdowns at the position. He went to 5 Pro Bowls in a conference that featured the likes of Ditka and Jackie Smith. However, he is largely forgotten when discussing the greatest tight ends in league history.
No one would really think there's anything glamorous people want to be associated with hogs.
It takes a special collection of talent in the trenches for your offensive line to earn a nickname. This is certainly the case with the iconic Hogs in Washington. 3-time Super Bowl champ Joe Jacoby anchored an O-line that had to play Lawrence Taylor and Reggie White twice a year. Washington was top 5 in points scored and rushing yards with Jacoby on the roster. We're expecting Eli Manning to be inducted very soon, so instead we're favoring a deep cut going back to the 1950s with defensive back Jimmy Patton. He was an All-Pro every year from 1958 to 1962. Patton headlined the Madison Avenue Giants and went to 3 championship games in 4 years, including the greatest game ever played in 1958.
Pressure is there again. It's intercepted. Lester Hayes. He'll score. Lester Hayes, touchdown. That's it.
Known for his trademark stance and a uniform covered in stickum, Lester Hayes defined what it meant to be a Raider. He was the other half of an all-time cornerback tandem with Mike Haynes, shutting down opponents en route to a pair of Super Bowls in the early 80s. His 1980 campaign is one of the best in NFL history, Defensive Player of the Year with 18 total interceptions, including the playoffs.
In 1985, Cherry, number 20, was the Chiefs' leading tackler. And he picked off 7 passes for the 3rd straight year.
Otis Taylor deserves a shout out here, as does fan favorite Eric Berry, but we're opting for another great Chiefs safety, 80s phenom Deron Cherry. No player had picked off more passes from 1983 to 1988. Cherry was named to the Pro Bowl every year in that span. While he hasn't had the same recognition as the other great DBs of the decade, you can put Cherry's numbers up against any of them.
Back to Walker. Caught behind the line by Mecklenburg.
The 1983 draft is most notable for the Broncos walking away with John Elway, but he wasn't the only star Denver acquired that weekend. Linebacker Carl Mecklenburg was taken all the way in the 12th round and anchored a defense that made 3 Super Bowls in the 80s. Mecklenburg was named to 3 All-Pro teams, and Denver's defense led the AFC in points allowed from 1983 to 1990. Is there a pass rusher more underrated than Leslie O'Neal? Over a 13-year career, he amassed 132.5 sacks. That's the same amount as Lawrence Taylor and more than the likes of Watt, Donald, and Derek Thomas.
Motion to the right side. He has become the favorite receiver for Chandler. Pulls it back, and he is pulled down by Leslie O'Neal.
O'Neal made 6 Pro Bowls and recorded double-digit sacks in 8 separate seasons, similar to his San Diego team that won the AFC in 1994. O'Neal's legacy has largely become a footnote in NFL history, but there's no denying his production. To the surprise of nobody, there's a plethora of great Pittsburgh defenders to list off. Pass rushers like Greg Lloyd and James Harrison certainly deserve a nod. It was near impossible to leave Hines Ward off, but we're favoring one of the OG members of the Steel Curtain, L.C. Greenwood, a 4-time Super Bowl champ. The D-end was named to the Pro Bowl every single season. The Steelers won a title. He's become the forgotten man in that 70s dynasty.
2nd down and 9, and it's Jamal Lewis. Got an opening. I'd say he's going to get his touches. After 1, he has 6. Touchdown, 82 yards.
Since T-Sizzle has been a recent finalist, we're going with Jamal Lewis, one of the most productive backs of the 2000s. Baltimore's all-time leading rusher had over 1,000 yards in 5 of his 6 healthy seasons with the team, finishing with over 10,000 for his career. He broke the 2K mark in 2003, winning NFL Offensive Player of the Year.
He has weathered hard times, a succession of injuries, to reemerge as the NFL's top-rated quarterback.
Ken Anderson often gets lost in the shuffle with other great QBs of his era, yet his numbers speak for themselves. More passing yards in the 70s than Terry Bradshaw, Ken Stabler, and Bob Greasy, all while showcasing his trademark accuracy in the original West Coast offense. Anderson won league MVP in 1981, making it all the way to the Super Bowl. The following year, he became the first quarterback to complete over 70% of his passes across an entire season.
Merrill Hodge, the lone back under pressure, pops it out over the middle, intercepted by Matthews. He may go for a touchdown. 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, touchdown run.
The Matthews family is no stranger to NFL dominance. Bruce is already in the Hall, and Clay took the family name into the 21st century. But Pops was an NFL mainstay for 19 seasons, 16 of which were spent in Cleveland. His best years came as an outside linebacker for the Browns of the 80s. Matthews recorded over 100 tackles in 8 campaigns, serving as the team's best defender during back-to-back AFC Championship runs in 1986 and 1987. While Peyton Manning was the face of the Colts offense in the 2000s, you can't talk about that era without mentioning their leader on the line of scrimmage. Jeff Saturday was the consummate pro, making 5 Pro Bowls in his 13 years with the Colts. His play in Super Bowl 41 was vital in the rain-soaked trenches. There was nobody owner Jim Irsay trusted more, and remains a fan favorite in Indianapolis.
Caught by Foster across the 30, breaks a tackle 35-40, cuts inside, 15, 10, 5, touchdown, Arian Foster. My goodness!
We are watching something special.
Undrafted out of Tennessee, not much was expected from Arian Foster. Regardless, he became the Texans' all-time rushing leader and a fantasy football monster in the 2010s. In just his second season, Foster recorded over 2,200 yards from scrimmage and a league-high 18 touchdowns. Between 2010 and 2014, no back had more touchdowns or fantasy points than Foster. Tennessee's teams of the late 90s were the best in franchise history. The Titans had the second most wins in the NFL from 1998 to 2000 and went to their lone Super Bowl in the process. Ground and pound was their game, and leading the charge was Eddie George.
Eddie George, room to run, up the middle, midfield, and there he goes. To the 10, touchdown.
The former Heisman winner tallied over 350 touches in each of his first 7 seasons. In 2000, George ran for over 1,500 yards and finished third in MVP voting. His physical style took the joy of the game away from defenders foolish enough to get in his way.
Brunell. Smith! Touchdown! Holy cow, what a catch!
Fred Taylor has been a recent finalist, and he absolutely deserves to be in the Hall. Instead, we turn our attention to Jimmy Smith, Jacksonville's all-time leading receiver. Originally drafted by the Cowboys, he was completely out of the league by 1994. When the expansion Jaguars were looking to fill their roster for their first season, Smith got a second chance.
Puts it up, adjustment tip, caught! Jimmy Smith breaks free! Touchdown!
From 1996 to 2005, Smith had the second most receiving yards in all of football, a span in which he broke the 1,000-yard mark in 9 of 10 years. Smith finished with over 12,000 career receiving yards, more than Hall of Famers Michael Irvin and Calvin Johnson.
And a new set of downs, Rivers. Intercepted by Wilford. There's a rare sight.
Look at the big man run. While we could watch Vince Wilfork interceptions all day, doing so would be a disservice to an anchor of the Patriots' D-line. You'll never be wowed by his stats, but his ability to command constant double teams opened up the Patriots' defense to rank top 5 in points and rushing yards allowed from 2004 to 2012. Logan Mankins, another unheralded lineman from this era, deserves a call-out too. You don't get to 3 straight Super Bowls without controlling the ground game, and while Zonka, Little, and Langer have received their gold jackets, Bob Kuechenberg never had the chance to put one on. 6 Pro Bowls in 14 seasons, you were in safe hands with the lifelong Dolphin.
Rushing the passer is just a lot of determination and a lot of heart. If you've got that, and if you've got the physical attributes, you'll be a good pass rusher.
Combine all-world production with a personality larger than life in the Big Apple, and you get yourself a superstar. Mark Gastineau was a devastating pass rusher for the New York Sack Exchange Jets of the 1980s, and he had the numbers to back up his talk. Number 99 unofficially had the most sacks in the NFL between 1980 and 1985, even outpacing Lawrence Taylor in the process. Gastineau had 41 in 2 seasons alone, highlighted by his then record-breaking 22-sack campaign in 1984. The only primary special teamer on our list, Steve Tasker, was a Swiss Army knife during Buffalo's heyday in the early 90s.
Oh, boy! A touchdown will result! They've done it again! They've done it again!
Right here, Steve Tasker comes right off the corner. 2 big special teams plays by Steve Tasker.
Wow. Wow is right.
Technically listed as a wide receiver, Tasker only caught 51 passes over the span of his 13-year career, yet his impact was felt on every kickoff and punt. Once referred to by Marv Levy as the most important player on his team, Tasker made the most of every opportunity. We hope to see him and the rest of these legends in Canton someday.